Welcome back to The Great Journey.
The great
journey.
A book club podcast where we're going to delve into the world of Halo one installment at a time. We'll be covering the books, graphic novels, films, and of course the games, and talking about them in a very informal and fun way. Hello again, my name is Charlie. After a particularly terrible showing in PvP last week, I will once again be your host. Great timing because we have everyone back to full strength. Please welcome my fellow co-hosts again, James, Will, Tom, Robbie, and Jim. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
Living that life.
Good. So Jim and Robbie, especially Jim, you guys weren't here last week, and Jim not at all the week before. What do you guys think of the book so far?
I mean, I've been cruising through. I kind of read a little bit past. I'm trying not to go too far ahead. I think I accidentally went a chapter past, but I mean, hell, it's just been way too easy to just sit down and just power through.
Yeah, they're little bite-sized chapters.
They are. I blasted through this book and I've already started The Flood. So I'm cheating big time. They were good to like fall asleep to, so I just kept listening.
Oh, your audio booking
you
it?
Master Chief showing up in your dreams.
Yeah, I'm having Master Chief dreams.
Oh, John.
Well, Jim, I gotta reel you in. I gotta reel you in real quick because I'm not sure the Flood is exactly the next one. I mean, if you're feeling, ornery and need to go forward, then fine. But
I used our guide that was chronologically, I think, the next one.
It technically is, but we still have to decide what's happening next.
Oh, okay.
That's a discussion for another time.
I'll hold up after this book.
All right. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm enjoying the books. We've had some great discussions so far last few weeks. We've covered chapters 10 through 18 last week. A quick recap on that. Humanity has run into the Covenant, and we are getting our butts whooped. The Spartans receive their Mjolnir armor suits, and we're able to prove that the Covenant are invincible, but at the cost of Chief's friend Sam. Meanwhile, Jacob Keyes captains his own ship, the Iroquois, and he gains fame by taking on 4 Covenant ships alone. But something has changed in the Covenant's strategy this time. They invade the surface of Sigma-Octanus 4, and for what reason, we are still yet unsure. So, that's where we're at so far. Before we jump in, though, I want to start a new segment where we're going to quickly answer or correct some questions we had from last episode. So, re-listening, I saw we had 2 questions. One, how many planets did humanity inhabit at the time of first contact? And 2, Beowulf, what was he? So, I did a little research. At the time of first contact, we had over 800 colony worlds, and 210 of them were considered inner colony. And as for Beowulf, who was he? Beowulf was an Old English poem dating between 950 and 1050 AD. It describes a Scandinavian hero who came to the help of Hrothgar and his mead hall as it was being attacked by the monster Grendel. Defeating the monster and subsequently the monster's mother, Beowulf became king before he was mortally wounded and while fighting a dragon. So it was just an Old English poem. I did not read anywhere, Will, where he made love to the monster and whatever. So
Yeah, I looked that up. That just happens in the movie. That's not in the actual book.
And did you say mead hall or meat hall?
Mead, like MEAD, the
mead hall. Okay.
The beverage, oldie drink.
At the meat hall, not the butcher. Okay, so yeah, that was the only 2 questions I remembered from last week. If we have any questions this time around, just kind of remember them, and I'll get them from you later. Okay.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to continue with The Fall of Reach by Eric Nylund, and we'll be covering chapters 19 through 26. All right. So let's just get right into it, shall we? I'm gonna 2 chapters at a time, like we did last time. That seemed to keep the conversation rolling. So, chapter 19. On the surface of Cygna Octanus 4, the UNSC Marines are fighting off the Covenant. We are thrown in with a crew of Marines as they escape the battle in a Warthog. They were initially sent to set up motion sensors at a specified grid point, but upon finding some ancient architecture, they were ambushed by alien forces. Despite one private being critically wounded, they barely make it back to base only to find it has been completely glassed. They head instead to headquarters and are fortunate to find that they were able to hold off the Covenant attack. HQ requests reinforcements from orbit, but are shocked to receive only one Pelican. However, off steps Master Chief and a group of Spartans, determined to take the planet back from the Covenant. And then chapter 20, the Spartans proceed with their mission on the surface of Sigma Octanus 4. Sneak their way into the Covenant-held city of Côte d'Azur, gather information on what and why the Covenant are there, and nuke them to oblivion. The Spartans split into 3 teams and engage the city from different directions. Sneaking through the sewer system, Chief and Blue Team observe the Covenant from below. They come across a new species of Covenant, a floating engineer or scientist that does not appear to be a combatant. They also find the center of Covenant operations, a natural history museum. Despite this curiosity, Green Team reports they found human survivors and Chief's plans change. Blue Team will infiltrate the museum themselves while the others evacuate and nuke the enemy within. So, what do we think so far?
I was when the engineer species came up, that was the first I'd ever heard of that. I thought that was pretty neat to get like some insight into what the Covenant's doing in terms of like their intel collecting, because in the games it just you don't get any sense of that, of like their strategies and what they're doing to try and understand what they need to about humans.
Right. The species actually was what's known as a Huragok, which you wouldn't even run into if you played the main Halo games. I think the only time we see them is in ODST, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah, playing the main games like I did, I didn't play ODST, and I wasn't aware of what these creatures were. So I'm surprised that we run into them so early in the Halo lore, I suppose.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, right? Right? Like, up to this point, the Covenant really wasn't sending dropships to the planet's surface. Like, that wasn't their standard protocol. So, I'm saying it makes sense to introduce the species and the way that they're collecting intel, because, again, this is like one of the first times the Covenant is really deviating from just blowing up planets and actually putting dropships down and putting people on the ground on planets for a long period of time. So I think those two are kind of correlated.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense that we don't ever see him in any of the Halo games.
Yeah.
Till ODST, just because kind of mentioned how Covenant, they kind of acquire different species and pretty much just use whatever their greatest strengths is, right? Just kind of maximize the utility of all these different species. So, I mean, if the engineer can't really fight, then why send them into combat situations?
Exactly. And the more I think about it, right, the games are very much, combat focused and more on either rescue or protection kind of missions, or flip it on its side where the Spartans are going in to do damage or collect intel from the Covenant, right? And where ODST, if you ever play it, it very much is kind of, you're put in the atmosphere of, these cities are getting run over with Covenant. Like, you're more in the ground, kind of in that type of action. So it kind of makes a little bit more sense of like, similar to this, where a dropship comes and a bunch of Covenant come out, attacking, killing everyone in these cities. Your ODST drop in to help, and alongside, the Covenant taking over are these other species trying to collect intel and do that type of things. So I think it's just that's why you don't really get a reference of it in the games.
I think it's also interesting that this is like the first time that hunters show up as well. Like they're decades in this war at this point, and the first time they run into hunters is when these hunters, you can assume that their mission is to collect this artifact, right? So it kind of like shows, all right, like how important this artifact is for the Covenant that they sent in these two hunters, which nobody has seen up until this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Will. We're gonna get into that in the next few chapters, but first time we're gonna run into a hunter as well. So definitely on this ground forces side of the Covenant, we're seeing some different things. So I quickly want to touch back on 19. This was again one of those like not one-off chapters, but it was just a chapter that was told in a different perspective other than Chief and Halsey or Keys. You know, you're just on the ground with a random group of Marines, and this was one of those action-packed chapters where they're fighting for their lives, trying to get out of there. I thought that was a cool little sidebar here.
In my head, I pictured it as like they were breaking into a museum kind of thing. Like, oh, the humans had found this, built up their city, and then like stored this interesting looking artifact just in a normal human building, rather than there were like leftover architectures from some unknown other species that the Covenant were interested in.
Yeah, again, we're kind of mixing these chapters up.
Yeah.
Talking about when the Marines, they were out there like doing their little whatever the little mission they had, and they were ambushed. But they were ambushed at it was like a grotto or a pool or something that had architecture in it. So
oh yeah, I see that we're kind of like jumping ahead to chapter 22.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
So there's definitely some old archaeological things on this planet that the Covenant are into. I guess you can wrap it up both ways. So
I just really like the perspective, just like the normal Marines out there trying to survive, and how much more difficult it is because they're not like a Spartan, they're not super soldiers, they're just like normal dudes trying to survive out there in the shit.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that once all the Spartans get down here, they're like, what do you want us to do? And the Spartans like, just get the fuck out of our way.
Yeah.
Just stay in the Pelican. You got this.
Yeah, they wanted a whole bunch of reinforcements, and they just get one little Pelican with some dudes that jump off. But I think they mentioned that like it was one of those situations where they first run into a Spartan, they're like, oh, they actually exist, like they're real, So considering that we're 27 years into this war at this point, Spartans, I guess their footprint isn't as huge as most Marines think. So
because there's only like 40 of them, right?
Yeah, I think, what do we say?
So I guess like 40 dudes spread across however many millions are supposed to be in the UNSC or whatever, spread across however many planets. It's like you're unlikely to see one in your entire kind of combat career or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if you do see one, you're probably fucked.
Yeah, you're in the shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because they always need the Marines to like help them out too. They're like, all right, who's in charge here? Are you with us? Sort of thing. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. It's like, yeah. All right, you're screwed if a Master Chief comes in and like, come with me, dude. It's like you're like, ah, man, shit.
I think we talked it anyway to our natural conclusion. So we'll move on here. Chapter 21. Back on board the Iroquois, Keyes and the UNSC fleet, under direction of Admiral Stanforth, are making a stand against incoming Covenant ships. By timing their MAC gun salvos, they knock out the ship's shields and are able to land direct hits. Incoming plasma fire is strategically protected by sacrificing the Cradle repair station. Amid the battle, Keyes notices a stealth Covenant ship holding station above orbit of Sigma Octanus 4. Finding out that the ship is picking up transmissions from the planet's surface, he surmises that the battle is merely a diversion to protect this unknown information, and he decides to interject. He destroys the ship by colliding into it, and they pick up an encrypted Covenant message. Once the transmission cuts off, the remaining Covenant ships retreat, but Keyes is unsure if he stopped it in time. Chapter 22. Convinced that merely blowing up Hold would not reveal the true reason behind the Covenant's search, Chief and Blue Team infiltrate the alien-occupied museum. Dispatching Jackal guards, they come upon a pair of hunters, which appear to be scanning rocks from display cases and transmitting the data up to space. The Spartans have their work cut out when they have engaged the creatures, and Spartan James loses an arm to its high-powered laser cannon. They're able to defeat them by destroying the floor beneath them, trapping them below, and crushing them by toppling pillars upon them. The stone they were studying was secured, and the Spartan team escapes back the way they came, detonating a nuke left behind as they make their way back to orbit. Oh. Caught up to the whole museum art. What do y'all think about this?
Yeah, it's like Covenant National Treasure.
Yeah, it was fun. It felt like a heist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll come on the space battle really quick. I think that like the way that the fighting was written, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I really
Definitely.
like the space battles.
Yeah, that's definitely the most fun part of the books. Or the book so far is all the way the space battles are described.
Which is not what I would have expected.
And that's stuff you don't get in the game.
It makes me think of like old like ship battles where
Right.
one ship would follow like shoot their cannons like a volley, and you have to like literally it takes time to like put in a new ball and fire the cannon again. Meanwhile, the other ship is
Yeah.
returning fire, and it's almost like a turned-based game almost, and it's just really cool how it's written. How like they shoot one volley and then the Covenant return fire. Yeah, I think it's super intense, and I just like the way it's written.
It's like Master and Commander.
Yeah. And they call out like how honorable it is that people are sacrificing their lives to protect the whole fleet during the battle, like the people in the cradle. There are no escape pods that leave that thing, and they take a magnitude of shots from the Covenant in order to protect the fleet. Like things like that are at least acknowledged greatly in the book, which I like.
Yeah, Eric definitely emphasizes the human cost of all of this, right? It's not just like, oh, cool, like lasers and guns. It's like people actually died. Like,
Yep.
yeah, he does a good job of grounding you in that.
Yeah, I would also add it because it's kind of funny you read the two chapters together. When you listen to chapter 21, you're like, oh shoot, they didn't get the signal. Why did the signal stop, right? But when you read chapter 22, it's like, oh, thanks a lot, Master Chief and people, for disrupting the transmission of what they were really sending. Right? I assume they went hand in hand, but
Yeah, I think so too.
It was like a cause and effect, but we're seeing the effect before the cause here. I did like how he wrote that. And sorry for cutting you off, Robbie, but I just wanted to also add, Tom, I think a week or two ago you said that you weren't as interested in the space battles, but I I think I changed. I was agreed with you, and I think I changed my mind here when like the space battles are actually really cool. I'm enjoying that. It's well written, I think. So
Yeah, I think I said I was surprised. I did not think I would enjoy them as much as I did.
and I agree with you.
I do agree with everybody. They're fun to watch or fun to read about, especially because they're a different perspective than what you get in the games too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like you can literally like picture it in your mind as you're reading through it or hearing it.
Yeah, and you're sitting on your seat. You're just waiting for that plasma gun to hit the ship, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. I think the point about the human cost is like really heavy in those chapters too, where it makes the decisions that the captain is making, Keys or whoever, not Keys, I forget, the Admiral for what now?
Stanford.
Stanforth. Yeah, the decisions that they're making have like a huge amount of weight to him, because it's like he's not making a decision for himself to just run into a room full of Covenant. Like he's making decisions for hundreds of people, and so it adds like a really
I think,
thousands of
right?
people. Even, yeah, you're right, thousands of people through the whole fleet and then on his ship. So it adds a really huge weight to the battles that aren't really there when it's like the one-on-one Chief versus Covenant type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I will say the way Admiral Sanford said, like, just hold on, no one move. Didn't he say like we have a surprise for you, or we have maybe he didn't say surprise, but like a plan, and then everyone just watches the cradle kind of float,
I thought
Yeah,
and the Admiral's like, "Yo, you workers, goodbye."
Sacrifice yourselves. Yeah, here's
I,
the surprise.
here's the plan.
I thought it was a great plan. I mean, it's
I
yes, you're
mean,
going to
yeah,
sacrifice
it's a
your
great,
It
entire
works.
station,
Yeah, it
but
it's a
worked.
very
Right.
strategic plan, right?
uh,
This massive, basically floating planet. Might as well have it protect everyone. Like it doesn't have shit guns itself.
it was a Keys quote from this chapter where he was like all their ships are all the UNSC ships are joined close together. Their backs up are against the planet, and Keys was like, "What is he doing?" And then once it plays out, you're like, "Oh, I thought the way it came together was exciting and interesting." So
Yep. Really quick comment how the new navigator that he got, right? Yeah, the new navigator.
yeah, Lavelle,
How
Ensign Lavelle.
yeah, but how he kind of like showed his worth very quickly. Even though he's just kind of sat his happy butt down, and 20 minutes later they're being attacked. But
Yeah, trial by fire for sure.
Going back to the museum, I thought that battle was pretty sweet between the hunters. They don't really know what the hunters are capable of, and that one part where the hunter shoots off its the cannon that's part of its arm, and like it makes you think that James died there for a second
yep,
because
Mm-hmm.
he like disappears for a little bit, and it's like, dude, did he just completely get vaporized or what? But it just turns out that he loses his arm.
James, do you have a new favorite Spartan?
no. I would prefer to have my Spartans with all their limbs. They have to be practical
Boo.
Spartans now. Sorry, James.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they actually had the hunters like working on stuff, like
Yeah,
transmitting the data. Like I always just assumed the hunters were just like, brutes with no
Yeah.
intelligence whatsoever. But
Yeah.
that's
it
what I
seemed
thought
like
too.
they were at least intelligent enough to do something beyond just smash and shoot.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, because like in the games, they're just these massive things with a lot of strength, a lot of you know stamina, durability, and firepower. Um, the way it's described in the book, it's almost like, hey, these are our. Well, you could talk about the elites. But these are like our Spartans, right? Like on special missions, very important, handling the classified kind of things, and super strong, powerful, etc.
It's also interesting that, they find that jackal that looks like it was trampled on. So it kind of seems like hunters don't really care about, the grunts or the jackals at all.
I must have missed that part, and then I didn't draw that connection.
Yeah, that's what
So
they come
a good
across
point.
the smashed up jackal first, and then they run into the hunters.
Yeah, I think later on, Master Chief says that the hunter just kept walking in a straight line. Afterwards, the jackal is just there, and it's just doot 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 smash, and just keeps going. It doesn't mean anything to them. They're ants.
There was a little quote I have a question mark next to first few pages of this chapter. They were doing reconnaissance, looking up through the grate. They said that they saw a platoon of black armored Covenant. They said that they were black armored veterans. I don't know. Have you guys seen any Covenant in the games or anything with black armor? Is this a new thing that I didn't realize?
I know in Halo Combat Evolved, the first game, in the last level, that there are some Covenant that are dressed in white and black, and they're a lot harder to kill than the normal colored Covenant.
Okay.
So just are they just elites in different armor? Is that what we're thinking?
Yeah. So looking
They weren't
into it,
elites.
Okay.
yeah, they don't necessarily have to be elite, but looking into it in the lore, they're Covenant Special Ops troops. It's not just elites. There's
Okay.
elites
So it was
and
special ops grunts.
Yeah, and there's a dark purple and black armor combo. Apparently, there's references to them in the Maw mission on Halo CE. If people are wondering if there's a reference in the game to them, but yeah, it's special elite or special ops
Is the
people.
Maw the last level?
That's a good question.
It's towards the end of the game, though, for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna read. The Maw is the last level.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sweet.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting chapter. It's, once again, Spartans, they fulfilled their mission. Blew everything up. Badass. It's like something you see in the game. So
Makes you wonder what's the purpose of that rock, that they wanted.
It's pretty.
we good to move on?
Keep on trucking.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to chapter 23. He and his crew on board Iroquois take a breather after the battle. They've taken on survivors and recovered the bodies of fallen soldiers. The cost of the battle was high, humanity losing 20 ships, and the remaining would need repair. And Covenant's main objective was the information from the surface, and really not to win the battle. The information that Iroquois picked up was quickly taken by ONI, but both Keyes and Stanforth are requested to debrief at ONI headquarters, back on planet Reach. Keyes programs a random slip-size vector per the Cole protocol, but unknown to those on board, a secret tracking device attaches itself to the Iroquois and will broadcast their movements back to the Covenant. Bum bum bum.
Oh man, that made me so nervous when I heard that. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. That
Mm-hmm.
was a cool little addition at the end of that chapter. But, let me read chapter 4 and then we'll get into it. Chapter 24. Chief is brought to ONI headquarters on planet Reach. He is summoned to testify his experience of the fighting upon Sigma Octanus 4. Before entering, he comes face to face with Jacob Keyes. Keyes warns him that the ONI officials are upset and that even though humanity won, winning isn't everything to some people. The Oni brass grill him on the information he gathered in Côte d'Azur, particularly the stone from the museum, which seems to, when scanned, produce some sort of hieroglyphics. John, having blown up the city, destroyed any further evidence. Imagine that. On his way out, he runs into Dr. Halsey, and she tells him that a new mission is upcoming for the Spartans, and Chief hopes it's a new way to win the war.
I guess to start, I was a little confused at the start, but was this a typo at the start of 23 when it's 500 hours on July 18th still? I assume. I was like, wait, why are they doing a flashback again? Because July 18th was... It just confused me for a little bit, but then I got my head around it.
That's a good pickup.
Hey, good pickup, Robbie. Yeah, because the last chapter was 2010 hours.
On July 18th,
so what,
yeah.
8,
Or is it like
PM?
an entire year later? Because they're having to travel like through interstellar space to still get back to Reach, right?
No,
So it
the
could be-
years
no?
are the years are the same.
Oh, it is?
23,
Okay.
23 is just back up on the ship.
Okay.
Because the chapters were taking place back to back. I was going to say something, but yeah, you're right. For the battle to be over, I suppose, would mean that, yeah, that timing doesn't make sense.
And the year's for sure the
So-
same, huh?
We didn't just suddenly jump a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would make sense though if it's just a year after this battle and it's like he's just now gotten back to Reach, because who knows how many like millions of light years away the Sigma Octanus is from Reach, right? And even it seems like the what do they call it, subspace or whatever the ships travel through. Still takes some. They still go into like cryo sleep to still get somewhere in subspace, so it still takes them a long time to travel between all their bases and planets and stuff.
I mean, on chapter 24, what's the year that starts out on?
Well, chapter 24 is same year, different month.
It was like less than a month later.
Yeah. Okay.
Where's the continuity, Eric? God
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, are we the first people to discover
Wow.
this?
Yeah. Robbie, no, not us. Robbie did it. Damn.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, get with it, Eric.
Official. Yeah. Or you get an official nerd badge, dude. Trophies
Well,
in the mail.
okay, hold on.
He's the only
What
one
was-
paying attention really to
I'm ready for
to
it.
the time
right.
and dates.
The actual details here. We're just like,
Verify.
oh, yeah, spaceship's exploding. Cool. Robbie, a details man.
You know, and I was just hoping I wasn't the only one confused to start it off.
Oh, I didn't catch it, so good.
Yeah, no, I bet chapter 23 should have been July 18th or 19th. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it probably should have been.
Good catch.
This is the kind of in-depth analysis that you only
Yeah.
find here on The Great Journey. So
A great
Great
journey.
Great journey.
thank you.
So the tracker, the whole battle, right, was
Yeah.
clearly a distraction to capture that data that the hunters were sending out.
Mhm.
But was part of the battle also like the only way it seemed the way that they were kind of describing the trackers as this like really slow moving, like really stealthy, and I feel like the only way that it would be able to like latch onto a ship is if there's like human ships just hanging around in that area
Yeah.
afterwards. So did the Covenant like purposefully lose that battle just to have a tracker hang around and
Or
latch
maybe that's
onto a
like-
ship as well?
Yeah, because they kind of said that the Covenants were using their ships as kind of more of a distraction, right? To like make sure that they had time to grab the rock. Plus, then that extra motive of like getting some sort of reconnaissance on the human ships.
Yeah, he mentions that it's like the tracker was like in all the debris and all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did humanity even really win that battle, or did the Covenant let them win so that they could get a track on the ship?
I think that's the definition of losing the battle to win the war for the Covenant. Confucius say.
Strategy or
Yeah, right. James, do you have the Sun Tzu right in the background somewhere? I know you've got that book.
Somewhere,
Yeah.
the art of war.
Yeah,
Sun Tzu.
These Covenant are tricksters, man.
yeah, man.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure the Covenant would have wished the humans weren't there, but circumstances, right? They
Mhm.
already sent the dropships down in the last battle. They needed
I-
some way of getting that stuff back. It is interesting too. Real quick comment. The transmission wasn't necessarily just encoded, but it was also not in a. I guess they do call it a language, right? A language they don't know how to parse. Calling out that, as we get introduced to new Covenant species, like, granted, it's not the normal Covenant dialects, but like, what is that kind of newer language, right?
Yeah, if I could, I'll just read the quote really quick.
Yep.
Quote, the transmission that Keyes intercepted only makes sense translated this way, a man in the shadow said. A holotank hummed into operation. Tiny geometric symbols danced in the air above it, squares, triangles, bars, and dots. To the Master Chief, they looked like either Morse code or ancient Aztec hieroglyphics. So, yeah, you're right. It wasn't a Covenant transmission. It wasn't a Covenant broadcast. It was broadcast in a different language that either Oni or the Chief understood. So, good point, James.
Forerunner tech.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't specifically say, but obviously that's what we're thinking.
Yeah. Not yet, at least. To foreshadow kind of potentially the Covenant's motives.
This was our
It
first
was
introduction
interesting.
to. Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Go for it. No, you go for it. I think we're going to say the same thing. Go for it.
Okay, my point was going to be as our first introduction to individuals. I mean, outside of Halsey, I suppose, individuals in ONI. As a panel, a board of
The
them
spooks.
that were sat in front of, and no real names, I guess, put out here. Everyone's in the shadows, talking to them. Obviously, they feel, or they look down on the Spartan program. It seems they're a little bit skeptical of Chief and Halsey and stuff. So,
Which I can kind of understand. Like, he blew up all of the evidence around this. Like, stopped the transmission and then blew up all the evidence. So, like, yeah, I would be a little bit pissed at this meathead who just, like, wrecked our intelligence.
That wasn't like his call though. That was like that was like procedure for them, right? It was like evacuate the city and then nuke it
Yeah.
as like a blanket policy from UNSC for whenever the Covenant overruns stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
But it was
obviously we're going
interesting
to
to see these.
Go ahead. Right, Tom. I keep doing that.
I was just gonna say, I think it was interesting to basically see these like ONI people just as like bickering assholes,
Yeah.
like
That was
really
entertaining.
petty
Right.
bickering assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
but it's still
like
not
that.
clear, like exactly. Go ahead.
God damn it, Tom. I just want to add to that point. They seem like
Yeah,
they're at the round table of like some Game of Thrones episode, and like they're all
Yeah,
hands
right.
of the king, and
yeah,
they're all
Yeah,
trying
right.
to like backstab each
Jockey for
other.
power, right.
Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah.
power trip in that whole room.
Yep.
It literally is probably what most intelligence panels are like. Most like
Sure.
government intelligence panels, right?
Yeah.
These overwitty, smart people who one of them wants to be the one who's correct and comes up with the answer for the questions they have.
which might be what Keyes is referring to as winning isn't everything for people. Like maybe some of these ONI people would rather be right than
Yep.
to actually win.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an
That's a good
interesting
point.
point. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I gotta think that they're looking at this whole thing big picture. Yes, we saved a planet. We got some information, but there was possibly more here that we could have gleaned from this mission
Sure.
that we weren't able to.
I think, yeah, I would picture O and I like, sure they want the Covenant gone, but I also think they care a little bit more around learning more around Covenant tech and like understanding that so they can replicate it and also gain more power, right? I think it's all motives of like how do we get more power? Less so what's the cost of the human lives at stake right now. Or that's my kind of judgment call from the references of O and I in the book and this meeting itself. Like it's kind of weird. I was just rereading part of it where in this chapter is where we talk about the jackal getting crushed, or reiterating it to the panel, and they're like, "Oh, evidence of a hierarchical caste structure, perhaps." Right? Like, wouldn't you have figured that out already? Like, we've been battling them for 50 years, and now you think because, a little jackal got stomped on, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, now all of a
This is
sudden,
your,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, before this jackal, they thought that the Covenant was like a classless Marxist society.
Flat society, right?
Right.
Pure democracy going on over there.
But it took them 27 years to not even figure out how to put a tracker on one of their ships. It's like we're just thinking about this now, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
And especially, it's like it's insinuated that the Covenant have done this before with other species, right? So they ideally would have like a plan for how to either like assimilate or eradicate the species.
Yeah, you wonder how many species they eradicated.
At least how many are there just that we fight immediately, right? We have the elites, the grunts, jackals, hunters, that are all supposed to be completely different species, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right, that's correct.
But how many have they
Yeah.
eliminated?
Oh, yeah,
like,
right, exactly. Yeah,
eradicated?
if they've only absorbed like 5 or 6, then yeah, for sure they must have just totally burned through more than that.
Yeah.
Also, what is interesting, and maybe this is because they didn't really understand how to scan the rock, right? Again, in the O and I like council with John, they're like, oh, like it was in a museum, right? So clearly some humans thought the rock was important, but like we have no idea where it came from or what it's about or like the rocks, like anything about the rock other than, oh, now it unlocks all these capabilities and like ideas of like, okay, what is this scanning tech that the Covenant used to like analyze this rock? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, the Covenant just every chapter seems to be more advanced than us. It's becoming the major theme here. So
I mean, maybe it's a true foreshadow of our real lives.
in what way?
Tune back in 2552. Give me another 500 years and we'll find out. What I mean by, like, okay, if we're talking real life, right? If there is a race out there, there probably, or like, species out there that can travel into it. Like, they're going to be more civilized. They're more advanced than us. So, that'll be it.
I agree with you. Anything else to add, guys? Okay. Last 2 chapters of the night, then. We're moving on to chapter 25 and 26. Chapter 25. Dr. Halsey returns to her office buried deep in the bunker of the ONI facility, named Castle. Given the continued success of her Spartans, she was finally given the go-ahead to enter the final phase of her Mjolnir operation. What that means, we do not yet know. We finally hear ONI's conclusions from the Sigma Octanus conflict, and we find they truly don't know what the Covenant are up to searching for human relics. They have no idea. In a shocking reveal, she asks her new advanced AI, Cortana, her opinions on the findings. to which Cortana states the Covenant desires the artifacts to harness its technology. We learn that Cortana was created from cloned brains of Halsey herself, which may indicate why, when asked which Spartan she wants to be paired with, Cortana picks Master Chief, which is Halsey's favorite. The conversation shifts to secret upcoming mission, one which will involve Chief, a reportedly outdated UNSC cruiser named the Pillar of Autumn, and a captain that has proved that they could keep a secret. Chapter 26. Chief and the remaining Spartans are assembled for a briefing with Halsey and Keyes. Halsey reveals what information they have gathered on the Covenant, but it's not a lot. She explains the different species discovered, their placement within the caste system, and states that the Covenant imitate and learn their technologies through absorbing and assimilating other species. That said, the truth of the matter comes to light. Oni predicts that humanity only has a few years, if not months, to hold out before the Covenant may find Earth. The Spartans are deliberately needed to fulfill this long-shot mission. 1. To track, engage, and to infiltrate a Covenant vessel. 2. Gather the onboard navigation details. 3. Hijack and pilot the ship back to the Covenant homeworld. And 4. Take a Covenant leader and Prophet alive, both for information and for use as a bargaining chip. Chief considers the mission far too complicated, but knows that the Spartans may very well be humanity's last hope at this point.
Woo! Yeah.
Our first intro to Cortana here. That's pretty cool.
Cortana and now the Pillar of Autumn, right? Like, so we're getting the game references going. Talked about the prophets, which were the prophets. This is the first introduction in them too, so far. How do we even know they have prophets? Like if we just found out that they have a caste system with hunters, right? Yet we know about them having prophets. I don't know. It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think they're just assuming that from maybe that first message that the Covenant sends to them, where they're like, they're doing this for their god.
Sure.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
So they know for sure that they have some kind of like religion going on.
That's fair. It could be more of a generalized term, and that just ends up being
on a quick side note. I just love the names of all the ships. Like the Pillar of Autumn, awesome fucking name. The Leviathan, the Iroquois, the Archimedes. All these ship names. I'm like, this is awesome. I love their names.
Well, that they're like drawing from human culture as they're in this fleet. I agree, Will. That it is really fun just to see the next name of the ship.
Yeah. Side note, if you ever play Helldivers 2, you have your own ship that, honestly kind of reminds you of a Halo ship, and you can name it.
James, you play Helldivers?
I did when it first came out. I haven't played it in a while, but it's still downloaded.
You're welcome on my ship, the progenitor of family values, whenever you want.
There you go.
Progenitor.
That's really good.
Yeah, a little bit back on track. Yeah, 25, cool. Cortana shows up, right? I don't really know if the game, at least CE, kind of tells you about the origins of Cortana, right? You just end up having this AI thing as part of you. So it's kind of nice that they go into it in the book of like, this literally is a slice of, or a copy of Dr. Halsey.
Yeah. She's made from a cloned brain of Halsey, so in all intents and purpose, she is a version of Halsey in AI form, right?
Yeah,
That's what
I don't really understand the clone brain side. Like, if you could pull data from a brain, why wouldn't you just hook up stuff to your own brain and do it. But yeah, I mean, in the book, it literally says like of what 12 copies, there's only one that survived or whatever,
Mhm.
or was properly like ingested into the AI.
Yeah. I took it as they're using like the brain as the CPU and the computer kind of thing, and then Cortana is just part of the cloud.
There's a vial somewhere,
Yeah, right. There's just like a
kind of
brain
like
in a tank on a base in like on Earth somewhere. That's where Cortana really lives, and then she's just like in the cloud in Chief's helmet, just like Google Drive in his
yeah,
helmet.
humans determined that quantum computing was too
Yeah. So
not
just
sufficient enough. We'll
just hook
use
a
human
brain.
brains
Yeah,
and
just hook a brain. I feel like there's got to be like a fanfic where like at this point in the books it just turns into the movie Her, and Master Chief is just like dating Cortana.
I mean, Cortana clearly wants to date him, so
Yeah, right. She's got the computer hots for him.
Well, it does say in this chapter that
Yep.
she does find the Master Chief. I'm trying to find the quote. I can't find it,
Yeah,
but
when
something
she
along
like
the lines
briefs
that
him,
he's like,
she does insinuate some attraction.
it's the top of page 288 if you want.
James has that one bookmarked.
Well, I just reread it. Thoughtful eyes.
Attractive in a primitive animal sort of way.
yeah,
He's an
It's like
alpha
such a
male, okay?
weird
Straight up dad.
like he is just a fucking meathead.
Yeah, right. Just a literal gorilla, a shaved
Well,
gorilla.
Straight up
what
dad.
my point is, her Cortana's thoughts are derived. I want to feel from Halsey's thoughts, so that
Oh,
means that
totally. Yeah, yeah.
Halsey
Halsey's
is
got like a
into Halsey's got a
weird,
thing
like,
for Chief.
yeah.
That's
Yep,
what I
100%.
But she's like also his like
understood
stepmom
from
or
that.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, that part's a little weird,
Yeah.
right? Like
Fanfic. There's a fanfic out there.
God damn it!
Is that the next book?
Yeah, this should be. Right, we'll get real deep in the lore for
the
real deep.
supplemental
Yeah.
resources, right?
Non-canon events.
there's an interesting part too here where he brings up how John isn't the smartest, the fastest, or the strongest, but they bring up that he's the bravest and probably the luckiest,
Mhm.
and that's something that they
Yep.
kind of touch on earlier in the books that he is lucky.
I was gonna say when I heard that, yeah, I went back to Tom's comment of the luck, and boom, 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 we kind of get it literally called out again. He might just be damn lucky.
That's also something that they're gonna bring up in the games later on when we get into those about how he's lucky.
I don't remember those references. I mean, I was also not really paying attention to the story all too much, so
Mhm.
I probably didn't listen to that part. But yeah, it's really interesting. And yeah, the comment about there's really almost nothing special about him other than, oh, he's some brave, lucky dude.
She didn't
But
say it
like
like there's nothing special.
I mean,
He's
he is
not
a
the best.
Spartan.
He's
He
not
He's
the
is
like the
a
best of
best.
Spartan,
He's the
so
best Spartan. He's the best Spartan.
he's the best overall
best
Spartan.
is
Yeah.
best is relative, right? Sure, maybe he has like 8s across the board in all those categories and doesn't specialize in one. But what I was kind of gonna reference is like they've made this very obvious throughout the book, right? He was never the fastest. He was never the strongest. Like there were other Spartans that were clearly better at those specializations than he was. He wasn't the one with the best eyesight or things of that sort.
Yeah.
So,
But he's the one that people turn to when
yep,
decisions needed to be made.
Yeah. Right.
yep, that and still this artificial intelligence, like super smart AI, crunching all this data, trying to figure it out, still would pick him over any of the other Spartans.
Does seem like what we've read so far that he is like the most tactical of the bunch. Like he's always coming up with the plan to try to find a way to win. So I think he's at least got that going for him.
Yeah, yeah, that part's interesting because I wonder if some of that, like, would he be the smartest tactical Spartan? To me, it sounds like that technically isn't true, but maybe the brave side of him kind of makes him think past some of the consequences and says, okay, well, here is like, we're going to just toughen up and do this plan, even though it might not work.
Yeah, there are things that like make me question how smart he is. Like literally the last chapter before where Captain Keyes is like, winning's not everything. And there's a few lines that where Master Chief's like, what does that mean? I don't understand. Winning is everything. I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. You don't understand what Keyes is trying to tell you?
It's dumb jock. Yeah.
Just a meathead.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite meathead.
Oh man, I knew I was gonna look at Chief a different way after reading his origin story, but maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Like,
he doesn't say much in the games either, so they're kind of like it's consistent character throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's not much of a thinker.
The less you say, the less stupid you sound.
Right?
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that Lincoln quote? Better to be thought an idiot than open your mouth and remove all doubt or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. Chapter 26, we have this harebrained plot by, I don't know, is it Halsey that came up with this, or ONI? I don't know. But essentially they're gonna hijack a vessel, they're gonna drive it to the Covenant homeworld, and they're gonna take a Covenant leader take them as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
That sounds
like
this is crazy. This is like last ditch effort. Like,
yeah,
it
definitely, I mean, to me it's definitely an O&I kind of stupid operation. First off, the range of possibility in terms of time frame of when the human race or Earth is going to be found is like 2 months away from a few years away. Like, okay, like you could just say that they'll show up tomorrow too. I don't know. That part was kind of like pointless in my mind. And then the whole plan screams like desperation.
It's insanity. They don't even know if these prophets exist. They don't know how the fuck they look like. We find out in this that they haven't run into any elites in the last decade. Like they just assume that there's like a warrior class. So that tells you they don't know about the elites. It's like, this is crazy. What, you're going to sneak in and steal these prophets from their home world? It makes no sense. It's a suicide mission.
Are they hoping that the Covenant ship, one, we don't even know how to pilot them, right? But are we assuming that the Covenant ship just has a autopilot, hey,
go home.
Google, go home? Like, how are we going to command this ship to go back to the home planet, right? And assuming the Covenant is more advanced than humans, wouldn't they have the same type of protocols of randomness jumping back between different slipstreams to get back to their home base, right? I don't know. And then once you're there, like, hey, 4 people, figure out how to kill more hundreds or millions of people and find this one guy and kidnap him and then come all the way back. Again, desperation, just kind of just like, whoop.
Real quickly, to your point, do the Covenant have a cult protocol? I don't think they have any reason to. They've been on the offensive this whole time. They
strike me as arrogant. Yeah,
I mean,
they strike me as
fair.
arrogant like that. That's an arrogant move to just be like, we don't need to worry about where we're coming from. The humans are too stupid.
In a way, yes.
Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Yeah, or like we said, we're just too preoccupied trying to cover our asses right now that us taking it to them,
Yeah.
it's I don't know.
No.
I don't think they're in that mindset right now. And then as for, suddenly we only have a few months to a year is what they're saying. I think they're officially putting like a time clock now here. It's an extra added pressure for humanity here, we're suddenly down to the wire. That's really the point of that, I think.
I think there was an interesting point made about like maybe there's some higher ups that don't like Master Chief and are literally just trying to send him on a suicide mission because there's so many holes in the plan.
Could be.
Of like number one, just getting to the planet, and then we don't even know what the planet looks like or where the hell the prophets might be. They could be literally guarded by, a million troops and 5,000 miles deep in the core of the planet. Who the hell knows where the hell they are? So, yeah, there's just so many big issues with the plan.
Yep. This just screams desperation at this point.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to add, we have a updated Spartan count in this episode, in this chapter. So we're 27 years on from first contact. It appears that only 3 Spartans have so far been killed, and 1 is critically wounded. So I think they were at 33 at the beginning, so they're about 29 right now, remaining Spartans. Considering we're 27 years in, that's actually pretty good, I gotta say.
Yeah, considering how bad we're getting our asses handed to us, also pretty surprising.
Yeah, and it does beg the question too, and I can't remember, maybe this is revealed later on, but yeah, they mentioned that they were going to go recruit another set of Spartans and train them up, but that apparently hasn't happened, or these Spartans are not made aware of them.
It could be happening in the background. We're not told about it right now. So
Yeah, we can keep going.
well, that's it. I mean, if you have anything else to add.
Forever hold your peace.
I think it's pretty clear that they're going to put AIs because they're like, how are we going to take over the ship? And basically, they're going to use the like Cortana and other AIs like Cortana to, go on the mission with them. I think that's the whole crux of this Project Mjolnir thing, is having an AI implanted in the Spartans with them when they're going on their missions.
Well, it didn't say AI specifically, right? But it's pretty obvious just because of the whole Dr. Halsey talk with Cortana, right?
Yep.
That brings up an interesting quick question I have. We're just seeing Cortana and then her connected with Chief here. Are we to assume that there's other advanced AI that are going to go into other Spartans? Do we know of this, or is this just a one-off special thing?
I feel like that's what the insinuation is, but I could be wrong.
But doesn't he say? I might be skipping ahead here at some point, but there's somebody mentioned something about how it is like almost unheard of to have an AI outside of like a certain class of starship because it takes so much computing power to handle one, and that you couldn't just like take that kind of computing power and power it without like a giant ship's engine kind of thing. So this is like clearly like a new development in their computing technology to be able to like have access to an AI on a more individual scale versus like one to run an entire ship.
I was just gonna say we're gonna see how they kind of make this, make it possible with the suit and everything. That's coming up, but yeah, good point. Good point. All right, is that everything?
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
I believe so.
All right, good discussion, everybody. Now that we've concluded, we're going to move to our final order of business tonight, our PvP tournament. So I'm going to add now, with the results of last week, here are our current standings. We have James top with 10 points. Will with 7 points. Tom, Robbie, and Charlie are all tied with 6 points. And Jim, by default, has 2 points.
Ouch.
So
I'll be hosting next week, boys. And forever and ever and ever.
no,
that's just running.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
our
Right.
standings right now.
Okay.
Results of tonight will determine who next week. So Will was our winner last time around. Will, tell us what we're playing this week.
I honestly had such a great time playing that gun game mode that we played last week.
Okay. Yeah.
And I kind of want to have another go at that.
Gun game, do you have a map or we played what? It was Halo 3 was gun game?
Yeah, it's Halo 3.
Okay.
You got a map in mind, Will?
I don't. I want to take a look before. Who are we joining up on?
I can host again.
We're playing gun game on high ground in Halo 3.
Sounds good. Next time, we're going to be reading Fall of Reach chapters 27 through its thrilling conclusion. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again today, and we'll see you next time on The Great Journey.
The Great Journey.
Hey, it's Will, one of your hosts here on The Great Journey. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to connect with us, you can find us on most podcast platforms, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Great Journey Pod. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/The Great Journey Pod. Thank you for your listenership, and we'll hope to see you on the next chapter of The Great Journey.
So we're doing all the Reach media first and then playing through it.
We'll just get all of the Reach out of the way.
We're gonna get around all of the
A
reaches.
reach around. Is that where we're headed?
We're gonna do a little reach around.
Will, did you pick a map?
Have we have we picked a map yet? Talking about reach arounds.